It is Thursday, July 28th. Thanks for joining us for your morning on Spectrum News 1.
Our top story this morning, Buffalo police are sharing body camera footage from an incident where a man allegedly fired shots at an officer.
We got one dipping out in a Rogers green jersey. He's got a gun in the front of his waistband. Stop! Stop!
Well, this footage is from an encounter on East, North, and Orange Streets early Sunday morning. Investigators say officers were responding to a 911 call in the area.
And that's when they say 36-year-old Sharif Shadwick, armed with a pair of handguns, shot at an officer. One of the officers did fire his weapon at the suspect, but no one was injured. Buffalo Police Commissioner Joseph Gramalia describing the suspect as a known gang member who was on parole for a drug conviction.
Our officers are out there on the front lines every day doing what they can to make the community safe from shootings, gun violence, among other things. And when our officers are targeted now as the defenders of the community, that's a real problem.
Shadwick faces multiple charges, including attempted murder. If convicted, he could face 25 years to life in prison. He's scheduled to be back in court tomorrow.
Quite literally cutting out the noise, Niagara Falls Mayor Rob Restaino has proposed a zoning ordinance amendment to regulate how crypto mining facilities can operate. The proposal would set limits on noise levels, energy usage, and electronic waste from said facilities. Now, at a public hearing, community members described how crypto mining has affected their quality of life, especially when it comes to noise. In response, a Niagara Falls crypto mining representative says the company is pro-regulation and is currently following all the rules. The goal is for the proposed amendment to be accepted before a moratorium on crypto mining facilities is lifted September 13th.
Look, the tech industries are coming, and we would like to be in that space where they see Niagara Falls as a viable option. But I don't want them just going off half-cocked trying to figure out how they're going to take care of the problem. I would prefer that we set a set of standards, and then they operate within those standards to be able to come into compliance.
Now, the City Planning Board will start looking over the mayor's proposal and then meet again in August. Delphi retirees may soon be able to enjoy their pensions at full value.
Yeah, the House of Representatives passed a bipartisan bill to restore their benefits. The bill, co-sponsored by Congressman Brian Higgins, would affect more than 20,000 auto company employees and eligible Delphi retirees of the Lockport plan. Their pension benefits were reduced up to 70% after bankruptcy proceedings in 2009. To make up for the lost benefits, families would receive a lump sum payment, including 6% interest on what should have been earned. The bill is named the Susan Muffley Act of 2022 after the wife of David Muffley. He was one of the Delphi employees who lost the full value of his pension. Because of financial difficulties, Susan delayed health care and died of cancer in 2012. The bill now goes to the Senate for consideration.
Good Friday morning. Here's your Spectrum News in 90.
We want to settle a contract. We want to settle a good contract. Our members, over the years, but over the last 3 years with this pandemic, has been crippling to healthcare workers, not only in our community, but across the country.
Healthcare workers with Kaleida Health have overwhelmingly voted in favor of authorizing a strike if negotiators can now reach a deal on a new contract. If the unions do go on strike, they must give 10 days notice to Kaleida. Kaleida Health says they hope a strike won't be necessary as it will be detrimental to the community. Both union officials and Kaleida look forward to returning to the bargaining table this morning. A new report shows 80% of child care workers earn far below the living wage. Here in Buffalo, the average wage is just $8.22 an hour. Here's meteorologist Dan Russell with your weather on the ones.
After a pleasant day with that fall feel yesterday, that has carried over into another chilly early morning with temperatures in the 40s to even around 50 degrees. The difference, though, is going to happen as we get into this afternoon. We'll have plenty of sunshine, and after this chilly start, temperatures do get back to the low, if not mid-70s this afternoon, right where we should be. Tonight, not as chilly with lows upper 50s to near 60, and across the southern tier, plenty of sunshine today, milder heading into this afternoon with highs around 70.
It is Friday, September 16th.
Thanks for joining us here on your morning on Spectrum News 1. Our top story this morning that we will continue to follow very closely. Thousands of Kaleida healthcare workers could eventually take to the picket line. Members of the CWA 1168 and 1199 SEIU unions representing those workers have overwhelmingly voted to authorize a strike.
Voting wrapped up last night. 96% of members who voted approved the authorization. This allows the union's bargaining committee to call a strike if a deal with Kaleida cannot be reached.
In the event the unions do call a strike, they must give Kaleida Health a 10-day notice as required by state law for hospitals. Workers are pushing for competitive wages and better staffing levels and say this was not an easy decision.
It's emotional. I mean, it really is. I mean, you know, our jobs are emotional, you know, taking care of patients, and people have been struggling for a very long time. And I think that, you know, people wanted to stand up and say, hey, you know, we're not taking it anymore. We've been taking it for a lot of years.
1199 SEIU says union leaders will be back at the bargaining table this morning and will spend as much time as is necessary to hammer out a deal.
Now, Kaleida Health says it's eager to get back to the bargaining table. Officials say they do not want to strike as it will be devastating and dangerous to our community. Kaleida says the current union proposal is estimated at more than $500 million. Officials say those numbers jeopardize the future viability of Kaleida Health. To Capitol Hill now, where the White House is taking aim at hate across America, hosting a first-of-its-kind summit on unity.
Statistics show a surge in hate crimes nationally. Spectrum News 1 Washington Bureau reporter Kevin Fry has the story.
Orlando, El Paso, Buffalo. After a rash of hate-fueled mass shootings in America, a call to action from President Joe Biden.
White supremacists will not have the last word, and this venom and violence cannot be the story of our time.
The White House hosting a summit focused on new strategies to help communities combat hate, including announcing new funding to help students dealing with trauma and mental health challenges. The administration also saying that tech platforms like YouTube will take new steps to combat the spread of extremist content online.
No one should ever be made to fight alone. That a harm against any one of us is a harm against all of us.
Among those attending the United We Stand summit, Buffalo, New York Mayor Byron Brown. His community still recovering after a white gunman opened fire in a grocery store in May, killing 10 black shoppers. Investigators later found that the shooter had shared white extremist writings in an online chat room.
Whether the community is urban, suburban, or rural, communities all across the country are being affected by hate-fueled violence.
The summit comes 2 weeks after President Biden spoke in Philadelphia, railing against political violence and calling MAGA Republicans a threat to democracy, a speech that many Republicans panned as divisive. Speaking Thursday, Biden called for not ignoring hate-fueled division, but taking it head on.
There's those who say we bring this up, we just divide the country. Bring it up, we silence it, instead of remaining silent. For in silence, wounds deepen.
Beyond its announcements, the White House is also looking for action from Congress, calling for passage of legislation holding online platforms liable for certain content that promotes violence, and increasing funding to improve security at places of worship. At the White House, Kevin Fry, Spectrum News.
Mayor Brown says it's important to have the support of the federal government to help prevent tragedies like the Tops mass shooting and provide comfort to those grieving. Brown emphasized the importance of federal funding to help communities heal from hate-fueled attacks. Policy aside, he says this should be a nonpartisan issue and that Americans need to come together and have conversations to bring an end to the violence. Demolition of the Great Northern Grain Elevator is scheduled to begin in the next few days, but preservationists are refusing to back down. The Campaign for a Greater Buffalo says it's filing a notice of appeal. The group hopes a judge will grant a temporary restraining order to halt the demolition. This has been an ongoing fight for months, with preservationists fighting to save the historic structure, asking for repairs to it. The grain elevator was heavily damaged during a storm late last year. Preservation Buffalo Niagara is holding a rally across from the site this morning. If demolition begins as scheduled, the city says the process could take up to 8 months.
A new report from Cornell University is shedding light on the struggles of the childcare industry, specifically in Erie County. The true cost of childcare highlights low wages and declining job numbers as leading factors. The report says 80% of all childcare workers earn below the living wage, with an average pay of just over $10 per hour. Then inequity stretches further. According to the report, as the average wage in Buffalo is $8.22, only 31% of the living wage. Childcare workers and advocates say these figures make the industry unsustainable and more funding is needed.
Quality child care is essential to our economy. The money that we received last year was not enough, and this year it was reduced even further. That simply won't do.
This study also shows what's referred to as a childcare domino effect, with low wages and a worker shortage eventually leading to, quote, dire consequences for vulnerable children. There's a section of the town of Tonawanda Cemetery that's dedicated to U.S. military veterans. But after 80 years, the monument inside of Elm Lawn Memorial Park's Field of Honor, it's getting some TLC, and it's greatly needed. Ground surrounding it will also be restored and memorial plaques will be replaced. The price tag for this project is $68,000. It's being paid for by community donations and state funding. Officials say all well worth the cost.
Well, the pride of actually taking something that is part of our history for 80 years and restoring it, and to not only do the monument but also the grounds is thrilling. It's hard to imagine what our work and their work combined is going to be like on November 11.
A formal dedication of the new memorial will take place on Veterans Day.